You're part of Constellation now. Part of our family.
I'll follow you from here on out, Captain.
We're all here because we're committed to the biggest question of all. What's out there?
Grab jump is ready. I love this part.
Welcome everyone to the Starfield Sandwich Podcast, a Starfield podcast by fans for fans. I'm one of your hosts, Eric aka Suliore, and as always, we will be joined by my co-host, Mr. KDB, later on. But guess what, guys? The game is out right now. You can play it if you've got early access, and if you don't, you'll be able to play it very shortly. So we both thought that we'd take a minute and give our first impressions of the game. Now, we're not going to be giving spoilers. If we do, they're going to be very minimal. But we just kind of wanted to give you our first impressions of the game, what we like, what we don't like, overall, just how we feel about the game, whether or not we recommend it. Now, here's the thing about this game. I am now just over 13 hours into the game, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface. Like, I've only been to a few different places, and just the sheer vastness of this game is mind-boggling. I mean, yeah, it's 120 gigs for me, so you kind of have to expect that. But, oh my god, there's just so much more that I still need to see that I've seen other people posting pictures of. And that is not a bad thing at all. I fully anticipate still playing this game for the next 10, 15 years and still discovering things. But, again, that's what I love about Bethesda games, and this is truly a Bethesda game through and through. There's so many things that you see that you have seen in other Bethesda games. Like, okay, so let's start from the beginning. So you wake up in a mine. Again, this is the very beginning of the game, and this is all stuff that they've mentioned before during directs and things like that. So you're in a mine. You start out in a mine, and you go and you're learning the ins and outs of how to mine. Like, they give you the mining tool and things like that, and then they're wanting you to look for something. You find what you're looking for, and then you black out, and then you wake up, and that's when the character creator starts. And I, for one, think that this character creator is fantastic. There's so much to it. And I know people who have spent 2 to 3 hours just in the character creator, if not more. I, myself, have never been one to spend a lot of time in character creator. I think the one that I've spent the longest amount of time in was Cyberpunk. But this one I spent, 20 minutes to a half hour. It really wasn't a lot compared to some of my friends. And if you want to see what my character looks like, I did post pictures both on my personal account, and then I retweeted it with the Starfield Sandwich account, like the show's Twitter account. But I thought it was pretty cool. Kind of similar to me, but with some tweaks, which, it's usually par for the course. Because, I don't know. I mean, I do like role-playing a little bit, but I don't know. I'm what I'm probably going to do, and I've heard other people echo this, is that I do plan on streaming this game once the game is fully released, but what I'm probably going to do is start a separate character for that. So I've got the character that I've got going right now for just me, but I probably will create a separate character specifically for streaming. But yeah, I mean, what I'll probably do with that character is role play a little bit more. So the background that I've got for this one is explorer, because that's one of the main things I plan to do is just get out and explore and see everything there is to see. And then the traits that I picked were empath, extrovert, and what the hell is the third one? United Colonies member, I think, that one related to that. And I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit because I fully anticipated, I've really wanted to see what kids stuff had to offer, and I've heard some fantastic stories from people. And then also, why the hell didn't I choose a Doreen fan? I was cheering when I first saw that Craig Seckler's character from Oblivion was being brought back in a way for this. So I'll probably pick those when I create my second character. Like I said, I've heard some wonderful stories about running into your parents at random times, and they did tease something about their voice actors that I'm kind of kicking myself for not picking those. But regardless, I'm happy with what I did choose because they do offer some speech options and persuasion options with empath and extrovert and United Colonies member, or whatever, that for your background. So, yeah, like I said, you wake up, you go through the character creator, and then there is kind of a step out moment, not maybe as noticeable to some people, but it is there. So then they teach you how to fight, they teach you how to fly the ship, because you do get a ship shortly after that. I'm sure everybody kind of figured that out. I mean, that's part of the tutorial, right? It's learning how to do everything. Excuse me for a moment while I take a sip of my coffee. There it is. So, anyway, yeah, then you do some other things, and then they take you to one of the main planets. Again, I'm not going to get into big spoilers, but here's the thing. Plenty of my friends have put out their reviews. Go watch those. People like Kenneth Vigu from the Chad Follett 76 podcast, Scully Face, Shreds from Elgato Pub, Tunnel Snakes Fool, DeMarco Dude, Starfield Signal, Star Signal. Lots of people have put out their reviews, and I have taken some of their advice with things. My friend Jessica Starr also posted 5 tips on Twitter and Facebook if you're a part of the ASA podcasting group there. So I'm going to kind of give my take on some of this. Now, the first space battle that you do, Kenneth Vigu said that he recommends doing it in third person, and I wholeheartedly agree with that because that first space battle probably took me at least a half hour to finish, and at least 85 to 90% of that time was spent just trying to find the enemy, because I was playing it in first person. And yeah, I kept turning, and I would see their trail coming from their ship, and I just missed them. So playing it in third person helps you get a better view of the surrounding area, and that really helped me take them out quickly once I did that. The other tip, and I mentioned this, I mentioned Jessica Starr's tips. I said something to her about this, and she said that she really should have included it in her tips, but you can't manually fly from planet to planet. And it took me an embarrassing amount of time to figure that out. I got the map marker for in space, so you can see where your destination is. There's a blue dot, and I kept flying in the direction of that. I'm like, okay, it's been like 5 to 10 minutes. Why the hell haven't I gotten there yet? Is the whole game going to be like this? No. So I eventually, like I was flying toward the blue dot, and I clicked on it, and it said travel to zone to the area. I'm like, oh my god, I'm an idiot. So yes, you have to either use your star map or you have to select the destination that you're trying to travel to. You can't just manually fly from place to place. Um, that I felt should have been explained better, and maybe it's just me and I missed that part. But yes, there's a very big tip for you guys. So yeah, the space travel, I've really gotten the hang of it now. And you do have to. There are definitely things that you have to do in space. You have to pass a test to join one of the factions. So you have to pass 3 levels of space battle, like simulated space battle, to join this faction. But you can keep going, and you can try and beat your score. I want to say there's 5 or 6 levels in total, and you can just keep going, beat your score, or whatever. I didn't do that. I'll probably go back and do that later. But these areas are huge. So when you get into, like I said, you can't travel from planet to planet, so you're just kind of flying around just outside the atmosphere of a planet, and then you there are different areas that you can touch down on. So you can explore the planet a lot. I haven't done a ton of that. I need to do more of that, specifically with a couple of different planets that I've been to already. But yeah, you touch down, and then you can just explore, and you can get to these other areas on foot, but yeah, I haven't really done a lot of that yet. So another thing that I have done is take some pictures. There's photo mode. The photo mode is almost straight out of Fallout 76. It basically is the Fallout 76 photo mode. Now, I will say that there are some things that definitely I would like to see added, because there's just not as much to it with, compared to the Fallout 76 one. Like, the poses are very limited. There's no facial expressions. You just look stoic. I have seen people kind of tweak it a little bit to make it look like they're smirking. I don't know how the hell that was done. I'll have to play around with it a little bit more. I'm not one to mess with a lot of the settings in photo mode. Basically, I'll just line my character up with whatever I want taken, and then do a pose, and that's it. I need to get more I'm not very prolific when it comes to virtual photography, but I'm trying. I think I've done a pretty damn good job with some of the pictures I've taken in Fallout 76. So yeah, if I see landscape or whatever that I think is particularly beautiful, I'll just pose or just take a picture of the landscape itself. So, but yeah, I would love to see more poses. I would love to see facial expressions added to photo mode. But so far, I've really enjoyed it. But oh my god, some of the landscapes that I've seen are absolutely beautiful. Some are quite barren. Like, well, I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, no spoilers. But yeah, like I said, I'm a little over 13 hours in, and I've just absolutely been loving this game. Another thing that I've seen that is a really big complaint is the lack of a local map. That would really help. I was walking around New Atlantis, and I still don't know where the fucking bar is. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, I've seen so many people talking about the bar in New Atlantis. I haven't found it yet, because I know from what I understand, you can recruit people to follow you. You can hire crew members for from the bar in New Atlantis. Now, I've seen plenty of other shops. I've seen apartments that you can get. I've seen clothing shops. I've seen weapon shops. I've seen food shops. I've seen a coffee bar, but I haven't seen the alcohol bar. But maybe that's just me. But I really think that local maps would really help that for people like me who can't find their head when it's still attached to their body. But that's one thing that I've seen a lot of people complain about, and I agree with that. Like, please give us a local map and an update. Now, the star map, I'm not as concerned about. Like, I've been able to figure that out pretty well. But once you touch down in an area, there should be some sort of local map. The combat, I love the combat. The combat is super smooth. The first time I died, I don't know exactly how this happened, but it kind of shot me up in the air like a Skyrim giant, just to a lesser degree. The one thing that I don't... I keep finding myself trying to use VATS because I'm so used to Fallout 76, or just Fallout in general. But one thing that I will say is I do love the scanner function. So basically, there's so much stuff that you can pick up and interact with that it's kind of overwhelming. Like, I find myself constantly getting over encumbered. But I do love the scanning function because it does show pretty much everything that you can interact with, whether it's clutter or enemies. Even enemy bodies, they'll still be highlighted when you're using the scanner. Another thing about the scanner is you can just click a button from the scanner while you're in the scanner, and it'll take you right to photo mode. But yeah, it's just I'm still trying to VATS people with it. But yeah, I'm sure that'll just be something that I kind of get used to after a bit. Now, like I mentioned clutter, I've constantly been collecting everything because I think I'm going to want to use it later, whether it's for shipbuilding or for settlement or outpost building, or you can upgrade your weapons and armor with junk as well, or resources. It's called resources, not junk. But one nice thing that you can do is you can haul this stuff to your ship and store it in your ship's cargo bay, which is upgradable. So that's not something that I've really gotten to do yet, upgrading my ship or my armor or anything like that. But it tells you what resources you need to do this, which is very nice. Another nice thing that you can do is you can, when you go to a kiosk, you can sell things from your ship's cargo without carrying it with you. Now, one thing that I would like added, and I remember hearing Shreds mention this, is it would be nice if there was a tab that tells you where the stuff is coming from. Whether it's just, an all-inclusive tab, and then have one for your inventory and then one for your ship's inventory. I guess it doesn't really matter in the long run, but it just would help. I'm used to all the different tabs that we have for your Pip-Boy in Fallout 76 especially. I'm just used to seeing that. They do have a new tab from your inventory, so that's definitely appreciated. One thing I meant to mention earlier about New Atlantis is that when you first start out with one of the factions' stories there, they take you to a museum, kind of like the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and this museum gives you the entire history, like everything they released ahead of time as far as the history of the world of Starfield is in this museum. And you can walk through and you can experience the story for yourself. So I highly recommend doing that if you're a lore junkie like me or just want to know what the hell is going on prior to the start of this game. So definitely check that out. It might be easy to miss if you're just focusing on the original, like the initial story that you get. But yeah, The biggest thing that I can say is just enjoy the journey. So this game is meant to be experienced. I've seen people say two different things. I've seen them say that the story doesn't really get going until you beat the main quest, or the game doesn't really get going until you beat the main quest. And I've also, I've heard people say, yes, focus on the main story and get through that, and then start a new game plus, and that's when the game really opens up. Then you can take your time. And I've also heard people say, just enjoy the journey and take it as it comes. I don't know. I don't feel, again, I'm 13 hours into this game, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of it. But that's not a bad thing at all. Like, oh my god. Like I said, I'm going to be playing this game, probably the same character for the next 10 to 15 years. So those are really my impressions, without getting into spoilers. Let's see, I've been to a handful of places at this point. Definitely going to be exploring some more after I stop recording, because I've made it to Mars, I've made it to the moon, and it's the quest that I have right now are wanting to take me to Venus and Neptune. But I want to explore Earth. I've seen pictures of a few people that have explored Earth a little bit, and what's really nice is they've found their city where they live. And I don't know if I really want to go to Des Moines, Iowa, but I will, just to say that I have. I'll probably go to the Indianapolis area also, among some other cities that I either have been to or want to go to. But yeah, I've loved this game so much. It's everything that I could have wanted, and I've really feel like I haven't experienced it to the degree that a lot of other people have. Anyway, those are my first impressions of this game. I'm going to hand this over to Kelsey, Mr. KDB, and I will be back to wrap this up.
Greetings, travelers. KDB here, and I'm very excited and happy and slightly emotional as I'm here today to give my first impressions, my early reactions of Starfield. The game is finally here. If you listened to our previous episodes, you would have heard the hype from both me and Eric as we led up to release. The game is now out. Early access we are 3 days into early access. I, of course, paid the small upgrade fee on Game Pass to get the special edition, which meant I could get early access because I couldn't wait any longer. And yeah, I'm here. It's Sunday morning. It's a lovely summer's day. There's my weather report for you. Summer has actually arrived late. It's boiling hot outside today. We've got the paddling pool out for my son and my wife and I. Yes, I will probably sit there and dip my feet in and treat myself to a Sunday afternoon beer when I'm done with this podcast. So yeah, first reactions. That's what I'm going to talk about today. This is not a review. We're a long way from reviewing this game because there's going to be a lot to talk about. But we thought it would be cool to get out our first reactions and first thoughts on the game. And I haven't even tweeted my opinion on the game. I haven't posted it anywhere on Discord. I have spoken to Eric. We DM'd on Discord and we've talked there, and so he's very aware of how I'm feeling about the game. But yeah, I've kind of just kept my thoughts close to my chest. I wanted to save it until now, till I've got the opportunity to just kind of ramble and talk at you for about 20 minutes or so. I will try to keep it concise. Bear with me. So, yes, the game is out. What are my first and my early impressions of Starfield? Well, to set the scene, I thought I'd tell a little funny story about booting up the game. So I booted it up, and so I finished work on Friday, and I sat there with the start screen in front of me, and I don't know if anybody else did this, but I couldn't bring myself to press start to start a new game. I just sat there with the music, with the start screen in front of me for a solid 10 minutes. I'm going to say 15 minutes. I was just kind of like, I was checking my phone a little bit as well, but I was just sat there listening to that music, looking at the start screen, kind of, yeah, just trying to process that Starfield was now here. It was in front of me and was finally going to get to dive in to this new world from Bethesda. It's a bloody good start screen. There's an opinion for you. The start screen is fucking fantastic. So I sat there soaking it up, and I felt a little overwhelmed, and I couldn't bring myself to start the game. So I just had to sit there, had a cup of coffee with me, and I was just chilling in the menu, waiting to start the game. So I started the game. First, let me just tell you, so some context. I am 10 hours into the game, or 10 hours of gameplay time. Now, where you are with 10 hours, just that will completely vary, obviously. I'll talk a bit more about what I've been doing in a minute. So yeah, I've had 10 hours with the game over the last 3 days. So I started the game, and I'm not going to go through, step by step, piece by piece, because as I said, I want to try and keep this concise. I'm just going to talk about my overall feelings and some highlights and some lowlights. So the positives and negatives, my first reactions. And I'm going to start with the positives because... So I've read a lot of reviews for this as well, and I don't usually do that, but I did. Obviously, I did the review reaction thing on YouTube as well. Go and watch that. But I have read reviews for this, and I've watched people's videos. And a really common thread in some of these reviews and reactions that I watched is everyone's starting with the negatives about Starfield. Not everyone, but quite a few people were, and I think that's a disservice to this game. I always want to focus on the positives. There are negatives. There's definitely, I've got some criticisms so far that I'm going to get to in a bit. I'm going to start with the positives. The start screen was a positive. The opening sequence, we're going to keep this story spoilers out of this as well. I should have said that. I might just quickly put an insert at the start of this episode. This will be free of story spoilers. It's just, mild game mechanic spoilers and stuff like that, and a bit of dialogue here and there. But key story spoilers and stuff, you're safe. So, yeah. The opening of the game, I really enjoyed. I was kind of amazed at how quick it had grabbed me, and I went into, as I said, I read the reviews, and lots of reviews I read said, it takes a while to get going and all this kind of stuff. I don't know, maybe talk more about that in a future episode. But yeah, opening the game, I was kind of amazed at how quickly it hooked me. I was still very overwhelmed playing it and just kind of so happy to be playing it. Sci-fi is my jam. Straight away, you know where you are. You'll know you're doing sci-fi. It felt very rugged sci-fi with the whole mining setting and stuff like that. So yeah, and then, obviously something happens and you touch this object and you get a vision, and I know this sounds like spoilers, but this happens in like the first 3 minutes of the game. So it just sets the scene. It happens even before you've made your character. Yeah, and it piqued my interest right away. So it was very sci-fi tropey straight away. You could kind of roll your eyes at it a little bit, but I love this shit. I live for this stuff. So I was on board straight away. Yeah, so it grabbed me right from that start screen in the opening sequence. My character, I will talk quickly a bit about my character. My character is a xenobiologist, and I usually base these characters on my wife, which she kind of loves and hates, because she hates to see herself die. And we've uploaded a Let's Play to the YouTube. You go and watch that. You can see the character there. So yeah, I was a xenobiologist, and the traits I chose were... adoring fan. I chose introvert and wanted. And the only reason I chose wanted was because I'd heard that you do just randomly get accosted by bounty hunters, and it's a good way to just farm extra XP. So yeah, So no spoilers there really. The traits, the traits, they give you certain non-changeable skills and stuff like that, which I won't really talk too much about now, but that was my character. So I got going. Once I started getting into the game, I felt very happy. You get into combat fairly quickly. Combat is the best it's ever been in a Bethesda game. I mean, you could maybe say it's not the same as Skyrim, because Skyrim doesn't have guns and, Oblivion doesn't have guns. But if you want to put them side by side, this is the best combat. It feels tight. It feels weighty. Really, really loving the combat. I heard some people say there was no step out moment on the game. Well, there is. There definitely is. It happens right after you make your character. It's maybe not as epic as like Fallout 3 and 4 and Skyrim and Oblivion, but it's there. It's definitely there. It has the crescendo of music as well. So I liked that. And yeah, I just found myself smiling. This whole opening sequence, this first sort of 15, 20, half an hour of the game, or hour even, where you meet the first characters and you get on the ship and you start to get to do a bit of combat and you explore the first laboratory that you explore. Yeah, I was just smiling a lot. So I found myself thinking as I was playing, why was everyone saying this takes a while to get going? Like, this is not taking a while for me. I'm loving it. All positives so far. There's a little... like with the other games, where you read books and you read notes and terminal entries and journals and stuff like that. Here they have these like data. I forget what they call them, but it's like it can be either be a text or audio, like data tablet thing. It does have a name. It's just completely escaped me what it is. And one of the first things you do is you're going through this lab and you're getting like the backstory of some experiments with some specimens and stuff like that, and I won't say any more, but just I was reading everything and finding myself instantly sucked in. Even though everything felt so vast, I was just kind of hooked by this little bit of story that I was getting right at the beginning. So I was reading everything, listening to everything. I thought there's some really nice lines of dialogue from some of the characters. One of the characters talks about knowing each other forever and being connected in the cosmos, which I thought was a really great line. The writing in this game, really, really good, like really witty. Feels like I'm laughing more at this than I have maybe with any Bethesda game. Fallout is often very, very funny. There's a lot of humor in Fallout, and maybe this is just because like it's the new thing, it's the cool new thing. I'm finding myself I'm really, really invested into it. But yeah, I found myself laughing a lot. But so yeah, this whole first hour, just so pleased with the combat, pleased with the performances from the characters, pleased with the writing. It was just hitting so many notes that I was really enjoying. It's weird, just as a kind of side note, it's weird like calling this a game, because it's like 4 games in one, maybe more. It's obviously a sandbox RPG, but the in-game activities feel like they could function by themselves as expansion packs, or, in some cases games by themselves, and that's with some of the crafting and the ship building and stuff and the mining. Yeah, so I was very pleased with this first hour of the game. Let's think. What was it? Character. So character back and forth. This is something that really jumped out at me. As I said, the writing felt good. The character back and forth felt authentic. It felt smart. It felt like that wit was really coming through. As I said, the voice acting. It does range, the voice acting. I think the key characters are kind of some of the best ever in a Bethesda game. But then there's just some others that will leave less of an impact. What else? Boost pack. It's boost pack and gravity. So this is obviously a big mechanic in the game. You use the boost pack to get around. You've got to upgrade it. each planet has different gravity. So sometimes you can just jump without the boost pack and you go really high, and then sometimes you jump and you don't go very high at all, and then depending on how much you're carrying, that affects it as well. So just kind of moving around, and this is obviously something that I had a concern about. You know, we've talked about vehicles. I feel like having a rover at some point could definitely still come in handy, but so far the boost pack and getting around just feels really good. And of course you can upgrade it. So yeah, that system surprised me, and I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. Let's see what else. Environments, the way it looks, environments, items, and creatures all look incredible. Lighting, atmosphere, design. The character models, I'm going to talk about this maybe more about negatives in a minute. The character models are definitely more of a mixed bag. I think everyone knows this. They are the best Bethesda have ever done with the technology of the time. It is a step behind some other games, but very, very minor. The way they look is often fine. The animation is a step behind other games, but that just does not bother me because I'm kind of used to it with the Bethesda stuff. I think the performances are so strong, and this is a trade-off with the engine and what we get from these Bethesda games, that not everything is going to be the world-class mocap cinematic stuff because there's so much going on in this game. I think it's perfectly fit for purpose in what the character animation is. But yeah, in terms of the way it looks, it's the best looking Bethesda game. The way that they use the lighting, and it's a photo mode dream. I've been taking so many photos, and yeah, it's kind of awe-inspiring. There's so many different styles, there's so many different biomes, so much to look at. The detail on the ships is insane. Yeah, there are a couple of negatives about the way it looks. I'm going to get to them in a minute. I've sort of touched on characters, but there's another very specific one that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, just more early reactions. Let's think. The music. I mean, I talked about the music. You can hear that there's no real structure to this. I am just rambling. We just wanted to get our first thoughts out. The music is not as good as Skyrim so far. It's better than Fallout for me. It's better than Oblivion. This feels like, yeah, it's got that very Spielberg, Nolan type, and I know they're not composers, but I mean from their movies. So yeah, it's got that very, what should we say, space epic. It fits very much in with what it's supposed to, and there's weird little diversions in the music throughout when you go to different locations and stuff. Maybe some things that you're not expecting as well that I've heard, which have been really enjoyable. But this is a soundtrack where I'm like, okay, how do I buy this soundtrack? I really hope it's coming out on vinyl, or I hope there's a CD or something. I need a physical copy of this soundtrack because it is just fantastic. Ion Zur, who's done the soundtrack, absolutely bravo. There's still more I need to hear, obviously. I'm still early in the game. As I said, I'm 10 hours in. The story itself, as I said, we're not going to talk about details. I am intrigued. I mentioned the opening intrigued me and piqued my interest. The way that the main story is going, I'm buzzing for it. I want to go on this journey. It's really making me want to find out what we need to find out. So I think, and we're going to talk so much about the story on this show in future, but for what I've seen so far, enjoying it. And again, like I've heard the reviews, a lot of the common thing across reviews was it's a slow burn. It takes a while to get going. You know what? Thank God for that. Like I beg for some games to be more of a slow burn. This is what this is. I think they know that people are going to be playing this for a long, long time. You can't, of course, you need to grab people at the start. You do. But they can do whatever they want. And I'm patient. I'm giving the game the time it needs. And I'm ready for the slow burn to continue to unravel. I feel like if this is a slow burn so far, then I'm not prepared for what's coming in future if it's going to speed up and get crazy, because I'm loving it so far. It's doing a real good job at setting the scene. This new IP, this new universe, new history. And one thing I will talk about is the museum. There is a museum location in New Atlantis, which is the first city you get to. The museum you can walk through, you can press buttons and look at, exhibits, and a voice starts talking and tells you some of the history and stuff. There's like 5 or 6 rooms. One of the best lore dump situations in a game I think I've ever experienced. This stuff can be such a slog to get through in other games where, you're reading through journals and stuff, and other games have done the museum thing as well. It's definitely not new. I was just captivated, honestly. The story that it tells of what happened to planet Earth, the subsequent, settlers and where humanity went, the factions that came out of it, the wars that started, creatures they found. Yeah. Captivated. And so it probably took about 45 minutes to get through it all. And I was looking at all the, lovely artwork and stuff, the exhibits that they have where they've got they're showing off the clothes of the certain factions and things. It's just, yeah, it's amazing to me that I love lore and I love story and all this, and I try to soak up as much as I can. I often find myself skipping over a lot and not giving things the time of day it needs. Here, slow burn, fine with me. I've been going slow as well, and I've been soaking up everything. And that museum walkthrough was so good. That made me want to we could do a whole episode just on that museum. Just, yeah, I'm kind of giddy just talking about it, because one of the best, if not the best, lore dump in a game ever. So good. I felt like I was in the museum. I felt like I was learning a real history. Absolute stunning highlight. Yeah, I'm not going to talk again too much about the specific characters and stuff and what they all say and do, because we're going to get into that in future. What I will talk about is Vasco, the robot. Hilarious. One of the funniest characters in a Bethesda game so far. I exercised all of his dialogue that I can up to this point. He has a go at telling some jokes. He reminded me of, definitely reminded me of the robot from Interstellar. What's that robot's name? Tars. Like sarcasm setting to 70 or something like that. There feels like there's some influence there with him. Love Vasco. One of the MVPs so far, without a doubt. I need to get I want like a figure of Vasco to have on my shelf, because yeah, I'm in love with the guy. With the guy. It's a robot, but yeah, really pleased with Vasco. The other characters, yeah, it's kind of too soon to tell. I have done a bit of context about where I am. So I started to kind of plow on with the main quest, but then I read online that you can get one of the best ships in the game quite early by just kind of rushing the Freestar Rangers quest line, which is one of the faction quest lines. That's what I'm doing at the moment. That's what I basically spent a few hours yesterday doing. I think I'm near the end. I think I got like a couple more quests to go. But so I have parked the main story and I've been focusing on that quest line. Awesome. Honestly, so good so far. It's basically space cops and robbers, and which I didn't think I was going to do. I think I said on a previous episode that I can't wait to go into this game being a pirate and stuff. No, I've just been a good guy. Yeah. So I'm, I push the limits of that. I'm being a persuasive character. I'm putting some skill points into persuasion, trying to talk my way out of it. The persuasion minigame is kind of a bit confusing. Sort of, I don't know how random it is, or if it's just based on, luck or whatever. But yeah, still kind of figuring that out. I've won a few persuasion checks and that, but that's what I want to do. I like the combat. It's really good. I want to be this smooth talking xenobiologist, that only really resorts to violence for people that start the fight, So I will finish a fight. I will happily finish the fight. But yeah, that quest line has been awesome so far. I never thought I'd enjoy a cops and robbers quest line so well. And I've had the character Sam Coe kind of tagging along with me by accident. My introvert perk means I gain an oxygen buff when I'm traveling alone, and I haven't really been traveling alone much. The game is very good at kind of auto assigning you companions in the early stages. I think maybe so you can just get used to it, but also there's a couple of early missions, a couple of early quests you do where it assigns you the companion and then you can't dismiss them until you finish that quest. So I've been assigned Sam Coe. I haven't quite finished his quest, so he's staying with me while I'm doing the whole of the Freestar Rangers quest line, which I think is kind of a happy accident because so I believe he used to be a Freestar Ranger and he's now left them and joined Constellation. So there's been a ton of awesome exchanges between Sam and the characters that I've met along the way through this quest line. So that was a complete happy accident. I think it's paid off. I got some really good story and character exchanges there. So that's what I've been doing with the game. But yes, it's broadly positive. I'm having so much fun. It has addicted me. The lore is grabbing me. The characters are grabbing me. Like this is not well thought out, analysis right here. This is me just kind of freewheeling and kind of just letting the thoughts come out of my mouth right now. So as I said, playing 10 hours in, focusing on the Freestar Rangers quest line, loving the way the game looks, loving the way it sounds. Combat is super tight. It kind of encourages you to use different weapons as well because ammo is quite scarce. I really like that. It does mean I'm going to struggle knowing where to focus my skill points for my combat. Let's think what else. I suppose we should quickly touch on the travel, the space travel thing. I think it's fair to say if you are expecting No Man's Sky, it's not No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is a space simulator where you can just fly for hours if you want. This is not a space simulator. Space is the setting for this RPG game. You fly around in space for a bit. You move from planets to planet, and you can land anywhere on those planets. There's a lot of travel if you want to do it. It's not a space simulator. Space is... who did I hear? A reviewer called Space the Stage for their story, and that is the perfect way. Oh, it was Jesse from Xbox Era. Yeah, he called Space for this game. It's not a space simulator where you fly around. Space is the stage where the story unfolds, which is perfect. The dogfighting in the ships in the space is easy to grasp hold. I like that it's kind of it drops you in this little section. It's like, right, here's your little sandbox where you've got to deal with your spaceship dogfighting. Then you choose where you want to go on the planet and you go and land. You haven't got to worry about all the flying for hours to get there. Who would want to do that? I mean, you're going to be playing this game for 100 hours. No one wants to spend 40 of that flying around. So yeah, getting around is basically a lot of fast traveling to and from places, and there are loading screens and stuff. Of course there are. This is a Bethesda game. But what I found was it was delivering the Bethesda experience that I've kind of missed through playing Fallout 76. Now, that's not a slight on Fallout 76. That game gives me a lot of joy, and it has a lot of what I do love about Bethesda. But there's things in that the way that game works is so different to something like Oblivion and Skyrim, and it's closer obviously to Fallout and Fallout 4. This game, Starfield, is so much closer to something like Oblivion. People have called it Fallout in space. It's not. It's basically Oblivion in space. It plays very similar. Things like building your skills just by doing are back. So your stamina would build if you jump and run in Oblivion. There's a system in Starfield that that's how it works here as well. And they've fine-tuned it and upgraded it and basically added challenges that you need to tick off, which make gameplay all the more fun and just kind of goal fueled, I suppose. But yeah, it's doing those things that I've missed from a Bethesda game because I've been playing Fallout 76 so much. And I can go back and play Fallout and Skyrim, and I do. I go back and play Fallout 4 and Skyrim quite a lot, and I'm like, yes, I love these games. I played Oblivion a bit last year as well. It's still awesome. Love playing it, especially on the Series X with the upgrades. But yeah, this feels much more like this is Bethesda playing the hits in a new, incredibly ambitious way that is going to take a long time to process and get through. I'll wrap up with some final thoughts in a minute, but before I do, I will talk about a few negatives. Criticisms, like things that have got on my nerves and things I maybe don't understand so far. And these are kind of very specific. Again, you could talk more broadly and get in depth. I'm just going to kind of list them off. The local map that you have in the game when you're down in a town or in a city or on the planet makes no sense. It's basically nothing. It's just like a blue screen elevation map with some point markers on it. The local maps on, Skyrim and Fallout, they kind of show you where you are and you know where the buildings are and stuff like that. There's none of that here. It's just a giant block of blue. Go and have a look at the Let's Play. And if you're playing it, you'll know. That feels unfinished and I don't really know what's going on with that. I think that needs some updates, and whether that comes from Bethesda or modders, I really hope that gets updated. The traveling between planets and plotting courses is very fiddly. If sometimes as well a little bit confusing. I'm kind of pressing the wrong button. You essentially have to navigate through like 4 layers of menu, and there's quick ways to jump to different parts of the menu. Like you can jump from there when you're just looking at your mission. You can press show on map or plot course from there. You just press one button, it basically does it. But sometimes you get lost in the menus and you've got to go between local map, planet map, galaxy map, and then star systems. So that's like 4 layered maps you have to go through, which each have points of interest on that you have to go. Yeah, I can hear myself talking about it and you're probably just like, what? If you haven't played Starfield yet, if you're not playing early access, brace yourself for that. I feel like by the time I hit hour 20 or 30, it's going to be a breeze. I mean, it's already getting easier now, but the first 10 hours, yeah, I'm often hitting the wrong button. You'll see me do it on my Let's Play as well, and I'm just like, oh, that was wrong, that was incorrect. I've landed in the wrong place, gone the wrong way. But, it's a huge game. It's a huge system, so there is a learning curve there. That's going to take some time. It feels like I'm going to have to get used to it. The inventory screen, although nice and clean, I think it's too nice and clean because, again, this is another thing it's so easy to get lost in, and there's not enough differentiation between, what you're cycling through, whether it's weapons and armor and aid and stuff. Aid is in with food as well, so food is in with aid, so it's, not separated out. Maybe some color grading or better highlighting of items here, some bolder text would help that. So although not as fiddly as the Pip-Boy to navigate, it's not as good. I don't think it's as good as Skyrim's inventory. I don't know yet. I mean, I just feel like the inventory is a bit difficult and maybe does need some fine-tuning. Everything kind of blurs into one. There's no scrap system, which is interesting, so you're kind of carrying around a load of crap that you don't really know what to do with. I'm sure that'll become clear as I play more of the game. I haven't done like any ship building or any kind of resource or, scientific experiments and stuff you could do. You do the research things so you can unlock mods and things. Haven't done any of that. So that's probably all going to come clear. But yeah, no scrap system was weird. Another one of my criticisms, as beautiful as the game looks and as good as it looks and all the stuff I talked about earlier, some of the item textures, particularly the food labeling and drink labeling, looks like stand-in artwork done in like Microsoft Word. Now, I think this is a case of a style choice between, futuristic. There's none of this. There's much less branding and stuff and weirdness because we're away from all that in the future. So everything's just kind of very matter of fact. This is beer, this is wine and stuff. It reminded me of like in Lost, where they have the Dharma Initiative, where everything is just kind of labeled with the corporate labels. It's, there is some branding and things have got their own unique names and there's a bit of color here and there, but there's a lot of it that's just is really dull and uninteresting, and that it probably is a choice, but I don't know. I feel like maybe that's one thing that got time taken away from it. One thing I love about, Fallout in particular is the branding of stuff. And I mean, I guess this applies to Oblivion and Skyrim as well. It's a bit different because they don't have branding, but just the way that the items look. and the models look nice and clean, and they got high detail here in Starfield, but just, yeah, the packaging artwork is a bit dull. That was weird, and it really throws me out because you're in the inventory quite a lot, cycling through what to use, and I'm scrolling through all this stuff like, whoa, God, this is so ugly. This stuff, it looks like standard textures. So yeah, there's some life and soul missing from that, but I don't know, maybe that's just me being greedy and wanting more. Negatives. What other negatives? No, I've had one bug so far where my character's eyes wouldn't open. She was just walking around with closed eyes. Reloaded my save and it fixed it. I've had no crashes yet, touch wood. Obviously I'm still early in the game. This is the least buggy Bethesda game I've ever played, without a doubt. You know, it's just no issues. The 30 frames, maybe you should have mentioned this earlier with the visuals, but loving the 30 frames is so smooth. You sometimes kind of tricked into thinking that it's maybe smoother than 30 frames. I do have a VR TV, so that helps. It just feels flawless. Looks really good. Yeah, no complaints. I'm fine with it being 30 frames. As I said, I like the filmic look. If we get 60 frames in the future, great. I'm not begging for it, honestly. The game looks stunning as it is and plays really well. No stuttering, even during high combat and stuff like that. So yeah, there's so much going on. It's kind of astounding that it's not stuttering more. Other negatives, I'm probably forgetting some, and when me and Eric do our review episode, we're gonna be doing sort of discussing and going backwards and forwards with each other, and some more stuff will come up. There's so much more I could say. There really, really is so much more I could say. There's so much more to say in the future. There's so much more for me to explore. Feel like I'm barely scratching the surface, and I'm 10 hours in, and I've done a lot of this 3-Star Rangers quest line and all this, and I've done minimal exploring. I've been teased. I haven't even seen some of the game's wildest creatures yet, which I've sort of been hinted at in the game as I'm playing it. I haven't seen them while playing. So much to do. I am definitely falling for this game. I said to my wife, I've got a bit of a problem, because even after playing it for the first few hours, I turned it off and I can't stop thinking about it. I've got a very busy life, lots to do, and this game is going to be a problem for me. Yeah, as I said, I feel like so far from what I've played, they've delivered. I feel like if you're an enjoyer of Bethesda's games and you play Fallout and Skyrim, you love them all, and you love the quirky stuff that Bethesda does that other games don't do. They just don't do them. It's all present and correct here. You're going to love this game. You probably are loving this game. I can completely understand how it won't be some people's bag. It's not linear. It doesn't really hold your hand. It has its weird graphical quirks, like I said, the character animation and stuff that we're all used to as Bethesda fans, but maybe a lot of newcomers are going to be coming to this game, and I think they're going to have a bit of a shock to their system. But it's kind of astounding what's there, what I can see laid out in front of me. I think so far for me, they've absolutely delivered. I'm loving pretty much every minute that I'm playing. I'm absorbed. I can't wait to dive more into the lore and the stories and discover more mechanics, do the shipbuilding, do everything. I'm going to plow through the main story, then focus on the side quests. There's a new game plus as well. I've read some of the other criticisms and reviews. I mean, reviews 7 out of 10s, that's just incredibly cynical to me. That's kind of just wild. And I'm one of these people that constantly pushes for so IGN obviously who gave this a 7, GameSpot gave it a 7 as well. IGN, I've seen them defending their review score by saying that they're trying to be the standard setter and remind everyone that no, 7 is good. It is a good game, and I believe that. I think it's crazy that we live in a world where anything below 8 is like a catastrophe. When you can get really good 5 out of 10 games, 6 out of 10 games, you can get awesome 3 out of 5 games, like games that will change your life with those scores. Unfortunately, that's not the way the industry works. the industry standard is completely messed up, and studios will struggle to get their next project off the ground if their game doesn't rate high. So reviewers out there trying to set a standard, I get it. It's noble. I think you're living on another planet. And I think, I've been living on another planet sometimes, thinking that, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, and I review things in my head and tell people, oh, yeah, it's maybe a 7 out of 10, when really I should be adhering more to what is the accepted, standard and reality between, for the public out there and people who don't realize that the reviewers are trying to be noble, because they've seen some really bad games get 7 out of 10s and 6 out of 10s. So yeah, it's been a crazy time in the last few days with the reviews and the game launching. A lot to talk about, a lot of discourse. This is a game that, despite how good I think it is, and I do believe it is objectively a good game, there is a lot of a taste thing here involved. I can see that something like God of War Ragnarok is a good game. It's not a game that I want to play, though. I can see that, there's other games out there that look awesome. They're not games I want to play. They're not for me. This game is not going to be for everyone. It's not. I think it's a game by Bethesda for Bethesda fans primarily. I think there's enough in there that if you're not a Bethesda fan, you will find something to enjoy. If you just want to focus on like the main story, I think that's fine. The scope is insane. It's just, I am rambling. I'm going to have to wrap this up because I've been rambling, I think, for probably like 40 minutes. And I said I was going to try and keep it concise and to 20. But yes, to wrap up, 10 hours in, loving it so far. Overjoyed, giddy with excitement to play more. I'm going to play more later today. Can't wait to dive in more with Eric. This game's going to be impossible to review. I mean, it might fall off a cliff after here. I don't think it's going to. I'm going to be playing this for a long time. It's delivered what I wanted. I think it's delivered what most people wanted. And I'm glad to see that generally the feedback from around the game is extremely positive, with people there's some things that we're picking at and are a bit fiddly and stuff. And it needs some cleaning up here and there, but it's so minor. And I don't want those minor things should not outweigh the incredible positives that this game is delivering. So excited to play more. Congratulations to everyone at Bethesda and everyone who worked on this game. I hope everyone out there in the fan community is enjoying what they're playing so far. If you're not playing early access, you've just got a couple more days to wait, and then you can play. You can play it yourself. Come and enjoy. Come and enjoy it with us. Come and talk to us. I'm sure Eric will do the outro properly in a minute, but yes, come and engage with us on social media. We're sharing a lot of content on the Twitter account, keeping it spoiler free for now as well. I hope this has been spoiler free enough for you. I hope you've shared some of my enjoyment, but so far, big thumbs up from me. So much to love. I've definitely not said everything that I want to. I maybe should have written out something, but yeah, when we get to our review, we're going to really, really get into it. But come and talk to me about Starfield, because it's all I'm going to be thinking about for a while. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Eric. Thanks everyone, as always, for listening. See you out there in the galaxy. Stay safe, travelers.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. I appreciate your input as always, but I think we're both in agreement that this game is fucking phenomenal. It's the type of game, and I've heard other people say this as well, that when you're not playing it, you wish you were. Like, Kenneth Vigu, I mentioned him earlier, said that he actually dreamed about this game on 2 different occasions, and I probably will be myself at some point. Like, this is that type of game, the type of game that you really feel like it's a game that you're living, not just playing. So anyway, that does it for this episode. I'd like to thank you guys as always for supporting this show. It really means a lot to me and Kelsey as well. If you feel so inclined, reach out to us on social media. Come say hi. Give us what your first impressions are. I know I've spoken to a lot of people in the community, but I would definitely love to keep hearing from you guys. And you can find me, if you so choose, personally at IanGold08. You can also find me with my other shows. I got Tamarelic Adventures, Super Nintendo, and the show that I do with Mr. KDB, the other show that I do with Mr. KDB, Tapes from the Wastes. We actually just put an episode of that out recently. And if you'd like to get a hold of him, you can find him at K_D_B_ on Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky, by the way. I probably should mention that as well. He is not as of right now, but who knows? Maybe he will be. You can also find his other shows. He's got Gears Intel, First Aid Spray, and the 2 Carrots podcast. So anyway, we will be back to give you another update on our journey through the stars. And until then, stay safe, dear traveler.